So when we start here and we learn here, it's in regards to what's the most basic things that need to happen for questions to happen, and then what are the questions, right? So presentation, there's kind of, so girls, you can write this down too. So there's kind of 5-6 steps with speaking at all events, right? One is what's the goal? So step number 1 is what's the goal? Step number 2 is what's the structure of the talk? Step number 3 is be silent. After you talk, before, if you're going to have Q&A, after you talk and before the questions and answers, got to be silent so that the audience can compile their thoughts and ideas, right? Step number 4 is the Q&A section, right? We get to have discussion over time on where can it all go wrong in the Q&A, right? Ultimately, you do the best talk in the world the moment you open it up to the audience. It only takes one person to say, look, I hear what you're saying, but, and then rip that whole thing apart, right? So actually that person can't rip it apart. It's your response to that person that will rip your whole talk apart, right? So Q&A is very important, right? And then bums on seats, who's going to the event and who's in charge of getting people there. And step number 6 is advertising. What do you have to do to advertise? What's the bio? What's the headshot? What's the, all that other stuff. So those are the sections, right? So we might go around today and we'll start with step number 1. What's the goal of speaking? If you were to do a talk, what would your goal be? So what's it going to be on and what's it going to be? So let's start there today. Christy, you're in my hot seat. So if you, and feel free to write stuff into the chat box. I've got things up and running, so I'm kind of watching many areas at once. All right, Christy, if you were speaking at an event, what event would it be? What would you want to, what would your talk be on, and what would the goal be?
Well, I'm actually presenting next week at a laneway learning class. So the goal is for awareness. So more people to come into my world, get to know me. And we're talking about the holistic organizing life audit. So helping them take a bird's eye view of where their time is going. What was the other question? Sorry.
Yeah, so what's it on? Where would it be? And then what's the goal?
Yeah. Oh, where would it be? So it's online.
You said the name, whatever that event was, you said the name of it?
Yeah, laneway learning.
Laneway learning.
Yeah.
And the talk is on?
The holistic organizing life audit.
Okay, and you said your goal is awareness around.
Yeah, I've used this platform before and have brought in new people into my world that have then become clients. So it's like a taste tester of me, I suppose.
Okay, so it's awareness of you.
Yeah, and how time management coaching can help.
Okay.
Oh.
So this is for everyone, right? If your goal is so that people become aware of you, you don't need that as a goal. That is a result of them turning up. Once you speak, they're aware of you. So you don't make that a goal. That's a result. It's going to happen anyway, right? It's the same when I hear people say, well, I want them to know, like, and trust me. That happens because you turned up and talked and they turned up and listened. So the know, like, and trust is a result of you talking to an audience. So it's not, it's going to happen.
The goal is more, so the goal of approaching laneway learning was awareness, but the goal of the talk is to help whoever shows up. Is that?
So I'll go one further.
Okay.
The goal, tell me, would it be the end goal would be, I want more clients, or I want to help more people, right?
Yeah.
In this instance, when we say I want more clients or help more people, that's a client, right? Person that you help. Ultimately, I've never really come across someone who doesn't actually help someone. I mean, sometimes they're more about helping themselves than other people. They really just want stuff now, right? So Gary's is to sell books, right? So he wants clients to buy his books, right? If you don't have that goal in mind, right? So you can say, I want more clients, which to me is as good as saying, I want to help more people. I have skills in this area. God gave me skills in this area. And seriously, my job is to just to pass it on. And so whether you pass it on for free or paid, I don't care how you pass it on. But ultimately, if you've got skills in an area, your job is to get it out to as many people as you can. So the end result becomes clients, right? And I'm not going to fluff around. Everybody deserves money. And truthfully, client doesn't expect free stuff anyway. And you can argue with me this all day long. People like stuff for free, but they don't expect it for free. When someone says you, seriously, like, Gary, how much are your books? All right, let's say, how many books you got, Gary, to sell? You're on mute. You have to unmute.
I got none.
Okay, so let's say you...
I'm here, though, Misty, right?
Yeah.
I know what I want.
Yep.
I'm not there.
No,
right?
no, that's okay. That's okay, because better to learn the skills before you get there, so that then you know what you're doing as you're approaching the things. So so much better, right? So let's say you had a book and it was $30, right? I mean, the goal is to just sell the $30 books. On one hand, you deserve the money because, hey, it's probably 30 years worth of knowledge going into that, right? And so as much as, oh my God, I can't believe I still have to pay for this stuff, and I've paid for 1,000 books and never got the information that I want, but truthfully, they don't expect it for free, right? And most of the time, if you give your book away for free, people go, oh, thank you so much. And it goes on their shelf going, I have a souvenir. I suppose I could read it, but I don't really understand why. Right? Whereas, and I've done this before. I've been at an event where the woman who was, anyhow, the person I knew, she said, I went to this event. I had my books out the front. People took them. And I said, so the books are $25. They gave the books back. Why would they not just pay $25? I said, because for $25, they've now thought, shit, I'm going to have to read the book, aren't I? While they thought it was free, they just thought it was a souvenir of the occasion. When they discovered it wasn't free, they've discovered that I'm not really a reader. And that's important to know. Why do you want people who don't read to have your book? Better off taking it back, because there's no point, right? The wrong people have it. All right. So, Christy, end result is want to help more people. So I want more clients because I want to help more people. They're not clients, you can't help them, right? Yeah. And a client sometimes is just someone you give information to, but really, if they're a client, you can help them because they're a client, and they'll pass your information on, which means that when you give information, you help one person, they're probably telling everyone how amazing you are, replaying your information back to others, and while they're teaching, they're helping more people. So therefore, you need clients so you can help the most amount of people. That's your goal. If you don't go in with that goal, then your talk's not going to work. All right, Joanne Watson. If you were to speak at an event, let's say, if you were to speak at an event, what would it be? What would it be on, and what's your goal?
I don't have any planned at the moment, but if I was to, it would be something to do with pets.
Let's project, it was a podcast. Let's say that you were going to speak on a podcast, right? What would it be? And right, and regardless of
behaving badly would be easy.
Regardless of the questions that get asked, you can skew that podcast to end up talking in a direction that you want it to be. People do it to me all the time. I'm going to see you, blah, blah, blah. Tell us a little bit about you. I go down the sales line as a sales trainer. I can talk about anything, but I don't. I go down as a sales trainer, and that's the topic. So I've already pre-planned the topic of why I want to be advertised. Let's face it, a speaking event is advertising. So what would you want to advertise if you were speaking at a networking event or at a podcast, on a podcast interview? So it'd be something to do with pets.
But lately I've been looking more into helping vets. So thinking about it for 30 seconds, I probably would try and be happy to start with pets and then skew it towards helping vets.
Yeah. All right.
And mental health.
Right. So see that Joe said, I'd be happy to start with pets. Okay, this is all hypothetical, and we're making up as we go along. So you can't decide you'd be happy. You have to decide, actually, no, Missy, I want vets. I'm going to skew it towards vets, which ultimately talks about pets anyway, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have to decide on your goal. Now, why would you want to speak about vets?
Because my goal for the rest of the year is to save one vet a day from suicide.
Right. Excellent. So that's the goal, is to stop
Thank
vets
you, Gary.
themselves because it's sad when animals die or when they have to put down completely capable animals because the person doesn't want to look after it anymore. Right.
Yeah.
All right. So that's your goal, right? Is to end up speaking to vets to sort of save their lives. Excellent. All right. Barbara Kobolinski, are you able to go off mute? And then if you were to speak at an event, what would be on? Where would it be?
I am. I will be in a quiet street in a moment. So if I can be next, that would be better. But otherwise, I can
Yeah.
speak.
No problems at all. So Tanya Leschef.
Okay.
Tanya Leschef.
All right.
Morning.
Okay.
You were to speak. Tanya. Oh, no, hang on, Barbara. We'll
If
just
I-
do Tanya. Barbara, we'll do Tanya and I'll come back to you.
Okay. Thank you.
Tanya.
Good morning, everyone. So my goal is to help 50 clients in the next 12 months. I want them to save them from themselves, because the problem is in real estate, people say the wrong things, do the wrong things.
No, you're answering the question all wrong. Let's go back.
Okay,
If you were to speak,
rewind.
yep. If you were to speak at an event
Yes,
or a podcast or a TED Talk or something,
yes.
what would it be? What would it be on? And what's your end game?
It'll be targeting the 3 Ds, people with deceased estates, divorcees or downsizers. They're the most vulnerable in Australia. And the goal would be, my topic would be to the do's and the don'ts when it comes to property.
Okay, right. So Tanya just happened to say a little bit about step number 5, bums on seats, who she'd be targeting. Not the question that I'm asking. What's the topic? Where would you speak? What's the topic? And what's the end game that you want? So the topic, the do's and don'ts.
Podcast. And topic would be on the do's and the don'ts around property.
Where can you do this?
Selling.
Where can you do this talk?
Podcast.
Yep. Right. And you could probably just invent it yourself and just put it straight up on a Zoom and just have people come to a workshop or an information session with you.
Absolutely.
And
yes.
the result, what would you want on the other side of it? Because we're all selling something. We're selling an idea. So what's the goal that you want on the other side of it?
To attract 50 clients. I want to help 50 clients.
Okay, take the number out. With what?
Helping them to sell their property for the maximum price.
So you're after clients. So you're after clients that
Yes.
want to sell their house.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
See, it's not about numbers here. The goal isn't about numbers. We're not putting a cap on it, right? You have to decide, do you want clients or do you not want clients? There is no cap. Let's say 50 people turned up and you want 50 clients. You're going to convert them all? Probably not.
No.
Right? But would you be happy with 1 out of 50?
Yes, absolutely.
3, 4, 5, 10, 20 out of 50. But would you be happy with 1 out of 50? All right.
Of course.
Right. Now, here's the end result of a presentation. If you get none out of 50, right, what does that say if you get none out of 50?
I need to rethink the way I'm educating these people. Obviously, the information wasn't of value to them.
Yeah, it could be that your information wasn't right. But let's say you really believe your information is right. So it
They
could
just weren't ready to.
be that.
Yeah.
It could also be that you didn't have that sales component in there, that next step component. It could be that maybe they didn't understand. It could be that you marketed to the wrong audience. But let's assume that you did the right talk to the right audience and then they didn't end up coming toward you. There's something that you did that was missing. And most of the time I find it is the fact that there wasn't a specific goal. The goal was something like, I want them to be educated. Great. Well, they were. That's why they didn't come to you, because they were educated. In what way? Who knows? Because they haven't had a discussion with you for you to find out, right? Everything can be fixed in a follow-up. If you run your own event, it can be fixed in a follow-up because you know who's there, right? If Christy goes to somebody else's event and there's free networking, like open networking there, then she can fix a lot of stuff in the follow-up, in that she can collect cards and follow up with them afterwards. If you're on a podcast, there is no one to follow up with, right? So on a podcast, somebody else's podcast in particular, but on a podcast, they can put all the information in the world out there. It's just advertising. Until you advertise your interview to people, then you can't, there is no way of, there's no guarantee of anything coming your way. Although you might be found and people might think you're great, you just don't know who they are, right? That's as good as McDonald's having a billboard on the side of the road. They know cars are driving past and seen it. They don't know who it is. They don't know discussion, right? So that sort of ad, it's a great ad. However, it's nothing you can do much with it except put that ad out and tell people, I spoke on this podcast, right? And then just let that filter out and around. TED Talk is different. Yes, Gary.
But
Yeah.
that just says if you're not hosting the thing, you need to be even more explicit in what that audience should do next
Yeah.
for
Actually,
you to be part of implementing it.
yeah. So I still go into, I think it's better to be a guest than to own the podcast, right? Let's look at Ryan Reynolds, Tom Cruise, any of the great actors, right? How are they so well known all over the world? They're interviewed by other people and they show up on other people's channels. Now, Ryan Reynolds has his own YouTube channel. And if you Google Ryan Reynolds and you go into YouTube and look up his stuff, you can look up all of his stuff. But if you Google Ryan Reynolds, he'll show up first on everybody else's channel, right? So you're better to be interviewed on someone else's channel. Now, how you use that interview is then you have to give that link to everybody you know. Oh my God, I was interviewed, right? Get them talking about you because ultimately you end up selling to the people who know you already and you know, right? Now, TED Talks. So again, better to be on someone else's podcast. Not sure that I answered your question in regards to this. It's good to have a goal. Like always have a goal. I want clients in this area based off this topic. You go into an interview on a podcast interview. It's happened to me sometimes where I've gone, yeah, I'll go on your podcast. And then 5 minutes beforehand, they say, right, now you're not allowed to talk about this. You're not allowed to talk about this. You're not allowed to talk about this. You're not allowed to talk about sales. Okay. So at that point, you kind of just go with whatever they ask you and you just answer it. And if you're not allowed to speak about work at all, you don't, it'll be some other picture of you. You can still use that as basic advertising of who you are. You may never have got to the work thing, but hey, you get to tick it off as somebody else was still advertising you. So it actually says who you are as a person. So that's more good advertising about you as a person versus maybe the actual work that you want. And sometimes you get to ride those off and go, well, I didn't get to do the physical work part that I wanted to do, but I certainly got the work part of getting known in another space out there in the world, right? Now let's take a TED Talk as an example. Gary, what do you do for a job? Like what's your jam? What do you do for a job?
So right now I help government departments with their internal systems.
Perfect, right? That'll do. Internal systems, and I think you do something in cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go with that, right? So internal systems and cybersecurity. So it sounds sort of IT related. If you were to do a TED Talk, what would it be called?
So the TED Talk I want to do is learn it to lead of the legend.
Learn it to lead.
It's about my profession, not about my clients. It's about being better at business analysis so that you can help whoever your client is, get a better bank, get a better supermarket, get the world fed, get the world housed, get countries to stop fighting each other. Okay, perfect. So when it comes to TED Talks is an idea we're sharing. And I run into people all the time that ask about TED Talks, and I'm a TEDx volunteer and I help with TED Talks curation. Like I was on the Canberra TEDx curation team, find speakers, things like that. And it's all about the idea that's worth sharing. As a TEDx speaker coach, I don't necessarily help someone write the speech, although I can help,
you in that area of, is it an idea worth sharing or not? And then how do we skew that to be an idea worth sharing? I can help that. The speech, I generally let the person write, and then I work on that area of, why do you want to do this? What's your end game? And then how do we achieve that? Now, if you were to speak on a TEDx stage, Gary, what's your end game? What do you want?
I come back to why I do analysis is to help overcome the housing problem in Australia, help overcome how poor the disability services in Australia are. I'm in Canberra to do big things with national impact, right?
Yeah.
To deliver better health outcomes, better disability outcomes, better educational outcomes, fewer disabled people in jail.
Right. So if you speak up, do one TED talk, because you only get one, right? And let's say you do it in Canberra, and there's 500 people in the audience. So
Yep.
one TED talk to 500 people.
Yep.
What? Because that's it. There's what? 400,000 people in Canberra, but 500 of them turn up. What's your end game with these 500? What do you want from these 500? Or what do you want them to do?
That's where I've read this thing a little bit. My goal isn't probably isn't a TED talk. It's professional conferences for people in my profession.
Uh-huh. All right, let's go with that. Right.
And that's why I'm happy talking at my profession.
Yep.
To people in my profession about progressing their career.
Okay.
Why I want them to do it is so there's fewer disabled people in jail.
Yep.
Better health outcomes, better education outcomes.
So I'm going to use this as the example, and TEDx is really easy to use the example because it's, you get one, it's about 500 people. Think of how many's in that city that could have gone, 500 people. So it'll paint the picture for the rest of it, Gary, in regards to what your end goal is. So
and fewer disabled people in jail would be the thing I am most passionate about.
Is to what?
Fewer disabled people in jail would
Yeah.
be the thing I am most passionate about.
Okay, right? Now, here's how it works. Most people want to do a TED talk because they want their idea that's worth sharing to filter out to the rest of the world. And how they want this to happen, or how they know that this will happen, is if they're asked to speak at other things on that subject so that they know that their message has filtered out. It's one thing to do a talk, hope that the audience got it so much that they go and share it with the rest of the world, right? But you can't guarantee that they've shared your talk with the rest of the world, but you can guarantee how many people, like each time, every time you speak, if there's an audience of 8, if there's an audience of 500, if there's an audience of 10,000, you know that you've done that, right? Because you've personally been there. So really, people who do TED Talks or any talks usually want to personally share that message so they know that their message was filtering out, right? So I have a guy who used to network with a lot in Canberra, and he was in my sales classes, and haven't seen him for quite some time. And I know he's really great in the autism space of helping kids on the spectrum transition from school leaver to end up with a job, right? And or no, to end up with work, like for the rest of their life, not just a job, but their thing, right? And anyhow, I wrote about 1.5 years ago on Facebook, you want to speak at TEDx events, open for coaching, whatever it might be. And then he wrote, I spoke last year at TEDx. That's it. Now I know that he wants, his idea we're sharing was, because he'd been working on this, was to get more people to understand that getting kids on the spectrum into workplaces, because they're so detailed, like they're just, they're really good on the detail side of just getting there and getting shit done, right? And so that's where he was headed with that talk, right? But he writes on my Facebook page, I spoke at TEDx last year. Then I had to write and say, and so I knew who he was, probably it would have been Canberra. Then I had to go Googling for all of those talks. Then I had to find, he's like, it was effort to go to this, and there's over 800 videos on the TEDx site, right? So then I had to go through and work out, well, if it was last year, and I end up writing and saying, that's great. What's the link? I mean, why could you not? And I'm thinking, why could you not have just put the link? I know that you want everybody to have this, but if you're making us look for it, then your message was lost. And this is the point, right? Really, on one hand, he probably doesn't like doing public speaking, but on the other hand, if he was asked to speak at workplaces, he would have done it because he knows that his message comes across best when he does it, because it's his message, not a filtered version of his message. So again, it comes down to this. What's the goal of why do you want to speak? Why anyone, individually, all of you, why do you want to speak? Is it, so Gary, I would suggest that your goal is because you personally want to help in this area of disabled people in jail. And when you speak and get your message across, if you physically do the talk, then you know that your message is filtered across because people could come and ask you questions. But if you don't have this goal of, I want to help people and I want to teach people and I want to help the maximum amount, then your talk won't be as on point as you need it to be. When you start with the goal, then of I want to help the most amount of people, then there's certain things that go into your talk that can't be missed now, which will be little things about you that have to go into the talk as to why you're the authority on speaking on this particular topic. A lot of people just start on their topic. They don't give a bit of background, or they give so much background that we don't actually understand the topic because the background is on too much stuff, right? So they're all over the place, and then the structure can't come into play because their end goal was, I know it's a platform to help, but they haven't really looked at the goal of how personally are they helping. So I can ask Tanya and I can ask Roger exactly the same thing. If you were speaking a thing, what's the end game? But the end game will end up being, I want to help the most amount of people in my area. So Roger does kill and remove mold. So Roger's would be, I want to help people not die from mold inhalation. So to get it out of their house without ripping out the walls and replacing them. And Tanya, what would yours be?
To help as many people as possible.
Right, wrong, Tanya. Yes.
Ah,
In regards to how, so Tanya Serpentine. Yeah, just realized. Tanya Serpentine. No, she might be wandering around just listening. All right. So Tanya's, oh, there you go. Tanya Serpentine. If you were to speak,
Yeah, I'm listening in the mood.
What's your end goal? So it would be to help the most amount of people, but in what area?
My end goal is to, in helping them with setting up goals for 2026.
Right. So to help the most amount of people, what's the end game?
So that I can have, the end game is to have a strategy for achieving their goals for 2026.
Okay. So that's a result of you speaking. It's not the goal. It's a result. That will be what your talk is on. As a result, they'll end up with the strategies on how to do that. So what's your goal, right? So if Gary's goal is to help the most amount of people understand or get the, have the less disabled people in jail, and to get that message across that we should be not putting in jail the disabled ones. I'm probably saying the words are wrong, Gary, but I mean along that line. Yep. Joe's ultimate goal is to help the most amount of vets not kill themselves when they have to put down completely capable pets that nobody wants anymore, like for whatever reason, right? Can't have anymore, right? So Roger's his goal is to help the most amount of people not die from mold inhalation, and also not rip out the walls to replace it because it's very traumatic on the house and the household. What would your ultimate goal be if you're going to teach the goals of 2026, you want to help people with what?
To live a fulfilling life, help as many people as I can to live a fulfilling life in their life, relationships, or career.
Okay, can anyone put that in a way that sounds easier than that? Because when you're the salesman, when you're in charge of your own words, it sounds good to you, but it doesn't sound good to the audience. Yeah? So can anyone turn that around a bit? She's
To help me find fulfillment in my career.
there you go, in your life. Yeah. So to help as many people what? Enjoy life more than what they appear to be enjoying it right now. Tanya?
Yes.
Yeah.
Finding fulfillment.
Yeah. To
Yeah,
help
finding fulfillment.
yeah, be more fulfilled now than what fulfilled is kind of a result thing of if you do it every day. I'll give you an example. Friends with a woman in Canberra, her name is Rita Joyanne. She's a speaker coach. She taught me this. She in regards to speaking, she teaches people how to do signature talks, right? And a signature talk is one talk to do for the rest of your life, and it ends up with however many clients you want or however many people you need to listen to you, right? And she can do her signature talk in 3 minutes. She can make it 8 minutes. She can make it 30 minutes with questions. I've seen her do it in a half-day workshop. It's exactly the same talk. It's like a piano accordion. She just stretches it out with, you know, if it's a long one, there's components. We do at the same time. She tells her bit, then we have to do our bit, and then it's her whole talk, right? Anyhow, she was helping a woman do a talk, and actually it turned out to be a TEDx talk on she's a gambler, right? Not Rita, the client was a gambler, but isn't anymore, and she wanted to help. Her end game was to help people not be gamblers anymore. And Rita says, what do you want to call the talk? She said, how to live your best life ever. And Rita said, see, if I was a gambler, I'm not looking for a best life or even a great life or a good life. I'm looking to not gamble tomorrow. So you can't call your talk like the biggest thing that it can possibly be. She said, if you teach gamblers how not to gamble tomorrow, then when they don't gamble tomorrow or the next day, in time, they'll end up with a great life, right? It's a result of many, 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 many days, right?
Okay, I'm starting to get
A
it.
fulfilled life is a result of the whole thing. You can't teach the end game when they've got years left for the next year.
Yes. Okay.
You can teach
I
how to
teach
enjoy
them.
more, how to enjoy next year more than you've enjoyed this year, right?
Yes.
Oh my
Yes.
God, that would be great.
So I teach them daily a strategy for daily success, to take that one step a day that moves them to where they want to go. So I
Yeah,
teach them that strategy.
right. That's fine. That's in the structure. That's fine, right? And here's the interesting part, right? Notice that the structure, this isn't the goal. The goal has to be what's the end game, and to see what the goal is versus the results, right? And I'm going to go back to you, Gary, because you're brand new in. So the goal for you would be to you physically get your message across to the most amount of people in regards to disabled people in jails, right? That's the goal. The result would be that less disabled people are in jail. That becomes the result. That will happen over time with the goal of you getting the message out, goes out. So you have to have the goal of, I want to help the most amount of people in this area. I mean, Gary's the most amount of disabled people not be in jail. That's his end game. He has to do it through the abled people who aren't in jail.
Absolutely.
Out, right?
Understanding what inclusion actually means in a school.
Yeah.
Understanding why more disabled people should be in work.
Right. So
understanding why giving them a house is actually cheaper than housing them in a jail.
Yeah. Yeah. I I taught last year a group of quantum sound therapy people. Now, they sell quantum sound therapy devices. Think of an iPhone that plays relaxing music, except that you can't hear it, and it's $10,000 to buy. So a $10,000 iPhone that you can't hear any music from. So you don't get a song stuck in your head, but somehow through all that silence, that music went in and relaxed you, right? So I had to teach that. Now, the guy who invented it, his end game was have this in your house and it filters out and it hits a few neighbors as well. His end game is, if I can help the most amount of people be relaxed enough that they don't want to kill their neighbors tomorrow, then my job is done. Like that's his goal, is to help people be relaxed enough that the neighbors don't piss them off for whatever reason and they don't want to kill them. That's his end goal, right? And so how did he do that? He made a quantum sound therapy device, and then he worked his ass off to get it in as many hands as he possibly could, right? So it's a very specific goal, right? My goal is always to equip every person on the planet, so the most amount of people, with the information on how to earn money all by yourself, so that you're not subject to whatever the economic environment is throwing at you. And when you have the information and the knowledge on how to do it in the practice, then you can choose to use it or not. But my job is to equip everyone with the knowledge so that then you can choose to use it or not. Have a job, work for yourself, sit at home, be depressed. It doesn't matter. Just have the knowledge. It's kind of like the alphabet. We all have to learn the alphabet in whatever language that we learn in. Whether you decide to write or use any of it at all, write or read, it doesn't matter. But if you have the knowledge of the alphabet, you can get through the rest of life easier than if you don't have knowledge of it at all. Because oddly, blind people are taught the alphabet. They can't see it, and they're still taught it. So we need the knowledge, and then we get to choose how we use it, right? All right. So that the goal has to be ultimately that you want to help the most amount of people. And then from that goal, it goes into the structure. All right, I'm going to go around because I'm watching the time. Christy, what are you getting from today's talk regarding goals and talking?
That I need to be more direct with it rather than wishful. Yeah, so I think I turn up a lot like, oh, hopefully this will lead to things, but yeah, be more direct. And I just really liked what you said about the gambling aspect, not looking to gamble for my whole life, just tomorrow. I think I can apply that to people feeling more organized. I don't need to get my whole life organized. I just need to know what the next step is, what the little things.
How to be organized tomorrow so you don't feel like crap by the end of the day.
Yeah.
If that's your talk, right? And it's just one step for tomorrow, people go, oh my God, I'll get something out of this. How to be organized tomorrow so I don't feel like crap. Oh my God, that would be great. You do that every single day.
Yeah.
Being very organized and having a pretty fair life, fair to great life. Go get through tomorrow. If you're helping, if anyone was helping moms, right? Moms is how to be not hated by your children by this afternoon. Ultimately, how not to be hated by your children tomorrow. Now, there's not a mom on the planet really that wouldn't want to go to that class. Oh my God, I'd like to go to the class and not to be hated by my children, because you know what? I yell at them. Fair enough, they probably hate me, but they deserve it. But when I'm really nice to them, they yell at me anyway, and I don't necessarily deserve it. And then I do nice things for them. They like me for half a second, but then they hate me for everything else that has nothing to do with me. They still manage to hate me. If I could just get through tomorrow without being hated by my kids, life might become a little bit easier, right? And then whatever they learn, hey, just look for that each day. And mostly the how not to be hated by your kids is really learning how not to be affected when the kids hate you. But it's not really how not to be hated, because kids are going to do their own thing, right? It's a third party thing. Someone is going to come up with their own thoughts and opinions, but it's how not to be affected. And that's really where it ends up, right? So yeah, yours is really you know, how to be organized tomorrow so you don't feel like crap by the end of the day. And notice that sort of talk would still end up with everyone going, oh my God, I'm going to learn something today. Yeah. And that's really cool. And it's something that I can just apply today, tomorrow, and then it's done. And it could be the same stuff that they've always heard. But then your job is to just keep reminding them, just do it tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And if you're struggling, and then notice inside that talk, if that's the goal and you're allowed Q&A, right? Then inside of that goal, you get to keep saying, and if you need extra help with this, I do personal sessions on it. I can help this week. See, and then you can make someone come to you. At a TED Talk, you can't do that from stage. You can do the talk, hey, how to be organized tomorrow so that then you don't, then you get more, you know, so that you don't feel like crap by the afternoon, right? You can't sell from stage, but in the breaks, people will come and ask you questions. And so you have to still know what the structure is and then what questions would you expect them to ask and then be able to answer it. So even if you're at a place where you're not allowed to sell, if the audience does have access to you in some way, even on a podcast where you may not be allowed to sell, but if audience has access to you, as in like, I can Google her, I found an email address, I wonder if I just write and ask a question, right? It's all about what are the questions that are going to end up coming from that talk as well. But you made a very good point of, geez, I better be more to point than to wish. If you go in, if anyone goes in with a talk that's like, I'd like people to understand more about me and know, like, and trust me, or just understand what is and have awareness of what it could be, then you'll come in and you'll do the talk like this. And then you can do this and you can do this. If you go in with the goal of, everybody is going to learn because I want to help the most amount of people and I'm going to have them get help today, then you'll come in and go, and you do this, and you do this, and you do this. See? But if you go in hoping it works, like you said, sort of wishing that it all turns out, then your voice changes entirely, which is why goal is very important. Changes your voice. And you're in charge now versus hoping it'll all happen. Barbara, what's your take home from today?
That I should have been in a different street. Sorry,
Oh,
just
yeah.
passing the big brothers.
Yeah.
Anyway, this discussion was actually very helpful. I was going to talk about something small, but it ended up being big. And my original intention was to focus on change and how to help people serve the change, to be on top of the wave at all times. So develop that resilience, develop that readiness for the change. But whenever I tried to talk about it, then people were saying, no, you've got to make it smaller. And I understand you've got to make it smaller to address the particular audience at the time, but the principle and the thought and the intent to serve as many people as possible is the actually overriding thought. So that's what I got from the discussion, that it is possible, that I just need to have the boundaries of the big idea, my big goal, and then being able to answer questions at the level that the audience might be interested in.
Yeah. So when it comes to resilience, right? If you want them to be more resilient, that's a result of you teaching them something. Nobody becomes resilient from just going to a class, now I'm more resilient. It's a result of them learning something and practicing it. So the whole, where people say, you know, like run all these classes on resilience, actually, you're not quite doing it right. It's like leadership, right? I'll run a class on leadership. My version of leadership is way different to the leadership that gets taught out there. Here's how I would do leadership, right? Here's leadership, right? Let's say we're all face-to-face in a group. I'm going to say, right, I'm going to teach you all about leadership today. And by the end of it, you will discover that not only are you a leader, but you can actually do it. Like I'm going to teach you to be leaders like right now, right today. And we're going to take half the day to do it. And here's how we're going to do it. I'm going to stand at the door right here. and you all are going to line up behind me. Gary, you're first behind me, and then everybody else line up behind Gary. I don't care what order it is. What we're going to do is we're going to walk down to the coffee shop. So you will follow me out the door. We're going to walk out the coffee shop, and then we're going to go into the coffee shop down the street, and we're going to line up. We're going to order ourselves a hot chocolate.
Yeah, understood. My big word is change, not resilience. It just popped up, 2 big words.
Just understand that sometimes
same big. Yep.
it could still end up being your result. So I just want you to just file that away so
Yes.
you can just mull on it. But leadership, right? So then I'd make you all buy a hot chocolate. And after we've bought the hot chocolate, we'll grab our hot chocolate. We're going to stand at the door next to Gary, and we're all going to line up behind Gary. And Gary's going to pick the person directly behind him. Then Gary's going to say, Joanne Watson, you're going to stand behind me. Everyone lines up after her. And then Gary, you're going to tell us where to go. And Gary's going to say, and we're going to go down to the park. We're going to sit and drink our hot chocolates, right? And then basically what I've done is I've made you follow me, which means I have led you to the coffee shop, and I have led you to buy a hot chocolate. Why? Because I went first and you followed the leader. And then Gary is going to lead us somewhere to the park to sit down and have our hot chocolate. We'll just do what he does. Now, how did he get us to follow him? Because he did it first and we followed the leader, and then he would pick someone. And so by teaching the component on leadership, everybody all ends up with the skills on how to lead, and they can do it leading forward, right? So they end up with leadership skills. So a result of working with you will be they'll end up with resilience skills, but it's kind of different, you know, like, so have a think about resilience is something that takes time. You'll discover you're resilient over a period of time. Oh, it turns out I'm more thick-skinned than I thought I was, right?
Yep.
So resilience is something that you notice that you actually have over time. It's a result. But yes, the goal is to help the most amount of people. Joe, what have you got from today's class?
I need to think bigger as well, being too small.
Okay, yep, you're thinking too small. Tanya Leschev, what are you getting from today's class?
More clarity. So I do realize that my end goal is to provide property strategies, sales strategies for anyone that's looking to sell their home in Australia.
Right.
And everything else will fall into place.
So I want you to take anyone out, anyone who's looking to sell their home. Okay, who is that? Everybody who ever lives in a house. They need to have property strategies, whether you rent or own or live with mom. It doesn't matter. You need to have property strategies. You're going to end up living in a house anyway. So you've got to make your goal far bigger. It's not for the people who want to have property strategies. Nobody wants it, but they do have to have it. Nobody wants sales training, but you have to have it.
You do.
Because you need it, right? So if you're going to live in a house, you're going to need some property strategies. It's kind of like Roger, right? Roger is, if you're going to live in a house, you're going to have to know something about mold. It's that simple. It's that simple, right? Because it's going to show up somewhere at some point, right? So it's more important that you have the knowledge and not use it than not have the knowledge at all. So in a way, we're kind of like force feeding the information in. We're just going to work out how to do it in a more palatable way. But you have to have the end game of, so my end game is I'm going to force feed it to the world, whether they like it or not. And I'm fine with that, right? Because that makes me stronger than most people, right? I'm fine with that because I believe in the knowledge that much. So if you believe in the knowledge that much, it's okay for your end game to be, I'm going to force feed it into one way or the other. I'll just see how I can make it taste more like chocolate ice cream than strawberry. All right, Gary, what's your take home?
The getting to the explicit over the implicit, and that follow-up sequence of knowing if someone comes to me in the middle and says blah, how do I turn that into a thing that's useful?
Yeah.
So whether that's buying a book, buying a course, subscribing to a website, booking an information session, booking a coaching session, or just outright hiring me.
Yeah.
If someone came to me at the conference I was at last week
Uh-huh.
What did I want them to do that I was not ready to ask them to do?
Yeah. Yeah.
And last week I was that generic. It was connect to me on LinkedIn if you want.
Yep.
I need to move the needle from there.
Yeah. So I'll give you this one for everyone for TED Talks, right? I did this in 2017, the first year that I was a volunteer, right? A few people did some really great talks. In the break, I went up and said, oh my God, you were amazing. Do you speak at other events? I suppose I could. Wow, you can't even answer that question. Do you have a business card so I can just email you later or call you later? No. Okay. How do I get hold of you then? And I'm looking at it thinking, what was your plan from speaking? But ultimately, this is not untrue of most people. This is actually the majority goes out with the, I'll speak and then magic will happen. But it's not a lotto ticket, right? It doesn't happen by itself. It comes down to your interaction with them after the event. You've got to be able to answer the most basic of questions. But if you don't practice knowing what your goal is and then looking at what questions am I going to be asked, then your talk is not going to hit where you need it to hit, right? So excellent. Thank you, Gary. I like that you've worked that out at this other one. I didn't know, so I just said, find me on LinkedIn, right? Because we'll end up going down those lines of those other areas of being able to answer the questions. Tanya 17. What's your take home from today?
Get more clarity, like speak specifically about what my audience will understand, not vague, big words, big things. Bring it down to next step. This is it. This is what I like. I teach you a strategy. I work with business owners because they need to know how to set goals. Like that little piece just landed, I think, somewhere with some comments you made just now. I'm like, yeah, I need this, which helps me to get now, okay, yes, it helps me to understand the importance of what I'm bringing.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. And in the structure, we move that so you know what your goal is. They need this. That's the goal. In the structure, we take out the need. You need to know this, that you're telling them what they don't do already, but you don't know any of them personally. So we take that out in the structure and turn it into something that they can digest, which is more along the lines of, I help people who have trouble with this like all day long. Then I might have trouble with it too, right? Your goal can be they need it. The structure becomes how to give it to them without telling them, telling at them. You can tell them, just not at them. Yep. Excellent. Well done, Tanya. Roger, what's your take home?
How to think logically and how to separate your marketing, your personal goal that you identify, and how to separate that with how you communicate what it is that you want them to accomplish.
Yep. Yep. Excellent. Thank you, Roger. So I'll give you this as a take home as well, right? The goal is always for the most amount of people you can help. The result is what they get from you. So they might get that they like you, they might get understanding, they might get awareness, they might get, the learnings. That's a result of them hearing you speak, right? A result is not a goal. So that's the end thing, is a result is not a goal. So what is the result you want the audience to have? That will come out in the structure. What's the goal is because I want to help the most amount of people. And I'm going to do it through this talk. All right. So the goal is always to help the most amount. But a result is separate. All right. If you have any more questions, you can ask on the way out. Now, notice this in regards to speaking. I start at the beginning saying, all right, today we'll go through the order of presentations. Like there's 6 steps, right? We've got the goal, we've got the structure, then we've got the be silent. Then that question and answer part, the audience, the bums on seats, and then the advertising. Today we'll talk about the goal, right? Notice we only talked about the goal for 1 hour. Like I ran it as a workshop, found out what people's goals were, worked it out. Didn't get through all of it in 1 hour. 1 step at a time. See, you'll all leave going, oh my God, need to go back to the next class. Or if I can't make the next class, I better ask Misty what it is, right? So just understand that your audience can only take on, you know it all, but the audience can only take on this tiny little bit, one idea worth sharing at a time, right? Unless you've got all day and plenty of time to answer questions in between. All right, I'm going to let you go. If you've got any questions, just ask on the way out. Other than that, 2 big glasses of water. Let this roll around in your head, marinate for a little bit. Get some fresh
It's marinating.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks,
This was
Misty.
awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Gary, good to see you.
Thank you, Misty. This is great. Getting those pieces in about the goal, the results, the structure, which is coming, but it's helping me so much. So thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Okay, have a great day.
You too. See you.